Hello and welcome. I am the Suit&Tie Dip&ChewGuy, and this is bonus content coming to the alternatives playlist. We will be taking a look at this. Those are 2 milligram nicotine lozenges put forth as a quit smoking aid. So, this review is thanks to Foley for the sourcing, the funding, and the review, everything. Alex in Tennessee sent this to me. The gentleman that sent me a couple of his chew mixes, if you remember, if you saw them. He also sent me this. I think basically because he just wanted my thoughts about it, the product. And I have not tried it yet because everybody likes to see the product opened, and if I tried it beforehand, it would already be opened. So we're opening it now. Right off the bat, this is like nicotine. This is how it would come if Bayer Aspirin was in charge of it. It's got an over-the-counter medication feel to it. With the exception, this does not come with a outer box. But that's what it feels like. It feels like a small aspirin bottle. It's got a safety seal on it, like an aspirin bottle. Push down and turn. It's got a safety seal underneath that cap, evidently. So that is what you're looking at. It is made by or distributed by. It doesn't say made by. It says distributed by. Now, it's branded as Rugby. But according to the label farther down, it is distributed by Rugby Laboratories of Lozenge, Michigan. Okay, there are 27 lozenges, mini lozenges as they put it, in 2 milligram strength. All the way past the warnings and the small print is a lot number, which I do not know what it means, but it doesn't matter because an expiration date is next to it right there, which is 03/23. So it's well within date. So press down and turn. It's like a medication bottle, you know. And it's got a safety seal on it, which is still engaged, which is good. I've never had a nicotine lozenge. There are some companies that I had thought at one point to try. Rogue has lozenges now. But, you know, I'm so touch and go with the idea of... I can't get this thing open. I'm so touch and go with the idea of, like, some of alternatives. Like, some that replicate what I use make more sense than others that don't replicate it at all. I can't get into this. We're using the pen. And it is open. Can't really smell anything off it. Alright, so... crap. Whoa. Okay, so they're actually bigger than I thought. They're in a sort of football shape. They're elongated, that is. I thought they would be circular and like tube-like. They are not. There is no smell, which is odd. So I guess maybe I'm just putting it in. I mean, I know I'm putting it in, but is it supposed to be anywhere in particular? I don't know. Okay, right off the bat, as soon as it touched my lips, there's mint. Like that. No smell, though. So I got it down right here. And we'll see, I guess, how long it takes to dissolve. Now I have it under my tongue. Now I have it in my upper lip. Now the bottom again. Off to the side. No, I'm kidding. It's off to the side, though. There is a mint. It's not overblown. It is minty. There is not a like blast of mint, but it was evident right as soon as it got in. As soon as it was going over my lip. It's a pleasant mint, actually. It's pretty low key. It's mellow. There is no cooling sensation. It is not overblown. There's no mouthfeel. I'm going to tell you what. Now, I don't know during that video if it was evident to anyone watching. The Rogue chewing gum, which was a stronger milligram, it was a 4 milligram product, was out of control, mouthfeel wise. It wasn't like Nicorette. It's on the alternatives playlist. I'll link the playlist at the end of this video. It wasn't a bite to release deal. It was an actual chewing gum, but the wintergreen in it was just crazy. And anywhere the juice, the byproduct, the saliva touched in your mouth, you started getting like a wintergreen burn. Only you're swallowing. So now that burn's going down the back of your tongue, your throat. This has no mouthfeel. And if this was in 4 milligram, I have a feeling that would have no mouthfeel. It's staying around for a while. I wasn't sure exactly what to expect with lozenges. You know what it feels like? A lot of you will not be familiar with this product, and I do not know if this product is still around. Like this, the whole umbrella of this particular product, not any certain brand. I don't know if this is still done. In the early 2010s, on some online tobacco retailers, they started selling what was termed hard snuff. Okay? Hard snuff. It was in a form like this. One brand was called Stonewall. It was in a form like this, only instead of whatever they're using to make up the actual physical form of this, instead of this, it was literally formed rock hard powdered tobacco. Thus the hard snuff. It was like this that they formed into a pill shape, compressed until it was like a rock, and I'm not exaggerating, and you stuck it in your mouth to let it dissolve. But the thing was, the thing never dissolved. It like hour later, I forget what the longest test I did not care for it. The flavor, I had the original non-flavored. It was nondescript, and I felt like I had a rock, like a pebble in my lip. I think the longest test I did that I thought maybe it was starting to break down a little bit was like an hour and a half. This feels like that, only I can tell already this is starting to dissolve. If you start playing with it, more flavor, obviously. Yeah, it's starting to break up. The only thing I have with this now, I've had it in now for close to 5 minutes. 2 milligram is how much nicotine is in a cigarette. The problem with this lasting too long, in my mind, is that the longer it lasts, the longer the spread of that 2 milligram. If you're smoking a cigarette, that 2 milligram is in as long as it takes to smoke that cigarette. So if this starts going to like the 10-minute mark, you're getting the same nicotine as a cigarette spread out over a longer time. Now, how that plays on certain people, like heavy smokers, I don't know. Because you're not getting the instant. With a cigarette or any inhaled tobacco, it's instant. Instant release into the bloodstream. With this, It's taking longer. There is a little bit of mouthfeel now. Moving towards like the 6-minute mark, I think. Not a lot. Nothing like that chewing gum. But there is some mouthfeel. I just broke it in half with my teeth, which is probably going to make it dissolve even faster. I'm sort of wondering maybe if they had an outer coating on this or an outer layer that did not have nicotine, because now I'm feeling mouthfeel. Nothing uncomfortable. It's comfortable enough. It's breaking up now. I'm going to chew it because I can. So, okay, this, as far as smoking cessation, stopping smoking manufactured cigarettes, this is what I have read about it. That when you first start, and I'm not talking about patches, I'm not talking about, actual Nicorette gum, I'm talking about lozenges and chewing gum. You should double the milligram to start off with. Okay, so if you are trying to quit smoking and each cigarette has 2 milligrams of nicotine, whatever lozenge or actual chewing gum you have, you should get it in the 4 milligram strength. Then step down to the 2 milligram, but keep using the 4 milligram after you first wake up. Okay? So if you were a person that wakes up, and I think they say 30 minutes, smokes a cigarette within 30 minutes of waking up, then the first thing you use after that wake up is a 4 milligram lozenge or chewing gum. When you get into patches, Nicorette, I'm going to be honest, they take the edge off. I don't know anybody that they've actually ever worked for. Nobody's ever told me that they've worked for them. Now, Nicorette, I know very little about. I don't know much about the strengths and whatnot. The patches, people will be like, oh, well, I got the medium grade patch and it was 8 milligrams. Yeah, 8 milligrams over the length of time the patch is on your arm. Some of those patches are up to 24 hours. So they're at least like 12. So if you're somebody that has it on for 12 hours and you got an 8 milligram patch, I don't know, during the normal smoking day, do you only smoke 4 cigarettes over 12 hours? Chances are no. Then you get to 12. Okay. But do you only smoke 6 cigarettes over a 12-hour period? Then you can get up higher than that. There's like an 18, there might be a 16, there's a 20, 22. Okay, but the higher they get into the 20s, they're usually in hospitals and they are 24-hour patches, day patches, like a whole day. Okay, so let's say you had a 24 milligram for 24 hours. What are the chances that you're only smoke half a pack of cigarettes a day, 12 cigarettes? There may be more people in that range group, but a lot of you will still be out. So, really, reality dictates that patches, nicotine gums like Nicorette, which is not an actual chewing gum, it's a piece of gum-like material in your mouth that you do single bites for release, nicotine release. This is now acting in the throat, sort of like that. Not as bad, but sort of like that Rogue wintergreen chewing gum. Not nearly as bad, but... So, what I'm getting at here is... The things... Okay, basically, here's a good example, because everybody should be familiar with CVS. I believe they're coast to coast. When CVS made a big deal about not selling tobacco anymore, Basically, their displays behind their counter where they sold tobacco products got replaced with Nicorettes and patches, this and that. Basically, what they did was they self-purged nicotine sources that involved tobacco to replace the counter space with more expensive nicotine sources that aren't strong enough to replace the tobacco. But it was a great showing by them for the virtue signaling element, so they rolled with it. Anything that you buy in a drugstore is not enough nicotine. Patches, it's not enough. You're going to have to go with a company like Rogue or some of the white powder pouch products like Velo or Rogue, something like that. And you're going to have to overkill what you get out of a cigarette. That is, a cigarette, you get 2 milligrams of nicotine. You're going to have to overkill. You're going to have to compensate because of the spread out period of the replacement product. You're going to have more than 2 milligrams. So you're going to have 4 milligrams. So this is the length of a cigarette time smoking, 2 milligrams. If what you're replacing it with is this length of time, you need 4 milligrams. If you're a heavy smoker, you're going to look for 6, 7 milligrams. Get it in the Nic Salt pack, the Rogue, the white pouches, the non-tobacco, smokeless nicotine products. All right. And and overkill. And if it's too much nicotine and you don't feel well, then step it down. But until you know that, hey, this isn't making me feel well, it's too much, then overkill, okay? If you're going to quit smoking manufactured cigarettes or quit smoking tobacco completely, then make sure you get it done. All right? Do what it takes to get it done. And half measures are things like patches and Nicorette. I'm thinking as hard as I can here, and I cannot think of anyone that has ever told me they have worked for them. I have heard a lot of people say, yeah, that lasted like 2 days and I was back. And if you're smoking manufactured cigarettes like pre-made cigarettes, Marlboro, Lucky Strike, whatever, you need to stop. Number one, it's very questionable if that even counts as tobacco. In my mind, anyway. But two, it's really bad for you. It's bad for you. All right? You are going to have a problem at some point. I'm not boo-hooing cigarettes from the 60s, 70s, 80s if you were smoking then. But starting in the 1990s, they started changing processes and what they added to them. And because of that, it's dangerous. And I'm not even putting it all on Big Tobacco. Big Tobacco had to start adding all those things because of state taxes. They knew that they had to make the shelf life of those products indefinite or they were going to completely lose the game. Why? Because state taxes, and to some extent federal, got laid on and layered on so heavily that it was either make the packs indefinite shelf life or throw in the towel. So they, whether wrong or right, they decided to put in the additives. And that's why the big reason. Really, at the end of the day, with a manufactured cigarette, in my own personal mind, the last thing I'm worried about is the carcinogens from the actual tobacco. It's all the other stuff. Anyway, that's my little ramble. This has been bonus content onto the alternatives playlist. Nicotine lozenges in the 2 milligram. They're not bad. They're really not. A little uncomfortable in the throat there after I chewed, but I did chew it, so the flavor was mint. It was obvious, but it was not overbearing. There wasn't a lot of mouthfeel until it really started dissolving, and then definitely when I bit into it. But it wasn't anywhere close to that Rogue wintergreen chewing gum. It was mostly in the throat, around the tonsil area, and although I didn't find it overly comfortable, it wasn't like burning or anything like that. The packaging is, you know, they're putting it forth in a way. The way they word it, the way they put it forth is as sort of a medication to help you quit smoking. And it looks like medication. So, I mean, really, they're not trying to sell it as anything else, so I'm fine with the packaging. It's good packaging. It's pretty thick plastic. There's no play in the plastic. The cap is a child-safe cap. If you were just starting to quit, though, I would check if they got this in 4 milligram, as I outlined earlier. Price, I don't know. I don't think Alex said. But Alex, when you see this, tell me how much you paid for it, or everyone how much you paid for it in the comment section. There's 27 of these in at a time. I suppose if you couldn't find them or they didn't have them in 4 milligram, you could put 2 in at a time. But I definitely wouldn't bite into them if that was the case, because that may be real uncomfortable to throw. I'd let them dissolve as they are meant. I am the Suit&Tie Dip&ChewGuy. This has been the Alternatives review as bonus content of Rugby Laboratories Nicotine Mini Lozenges, 2 milligram nicotine in mint, 27 in the container. I do hope you all are well. Do take care of yourselves, and as always, God bless.